Imagine this for a second. What happens when the people who have always been expected to show up, to fix things, to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders simply stop? What happens when millions of men quietly, without protest or screaming headlines, just walk away from everything society told them they were supposed to want? By the time you finish watching this video, you're going to see exactly why that silent exit is one of the most powerful movements in modern history and why absolutely nothing will ever be the same again. Stick around until the very end because I'm going to show you proof that this isn't theory anymore. It's happening right now in real time, and the consequences are going to shock even the people who thought they saw it coming. And if you're new here or you've been riding with me for a while, smash that like button, share this video with every man you know who needs to hear this, and subscribe so you never miss another dose of raw, unfiltered, angry guy truth. Also, gentlemen, if you're tired of being financially vulnerable in a system that's openly hostile to men, go check out Angry's Crypto Academy right now. The full blueprint on how to buy, store, trade, and protect your wealth with cryptocurrency is linked in the description. Cold wallets, seed phrases, tax strategies, everything you need to make sure no one can ever take what's yours. Click that link and start building real security today. Well, let's begin. Men walking away isn't some dramatic movie scene with explosions and slow motion walks. It's quiet, it's calm, it's deliberate. And that's exactly why it's so terrifying to everyone who used to count on men never figuring out they had a choice. For decades, we were sold a script: go to school, get good grades, get the degree, get the job, get the wife, get the house, get the kids, work until you drop. And maybe, just maybe, if you're lucky and you never complain, society will throw you a participation trophy before you die broke and exhausted. And for a long time, millions of men played along. We showed up. We built the roads, the buildings, the power grid, the internet. You're watching this on right now. We paid the taxes. We fought the wars. We took the dangerous jobs. We kept quiet when we were told our natural instincts were toxic. And we kept providing even while being told we were the problem. And then something shifted. It wasn't one big event. It was 1,000 small cuts. It was being told in school that boys are defective girls. It was watching friends lose everything in divorce court for no reason other than being male. It was opening social media and seeing endless videos calling men trash while simultaneously demanding men pay for everything. It was realizing that no matter how hard you worked, homeownership was slipping away. Starting a family was becoming financially impossible, and the culture was openly celebrating your replacement. So men did something radical. They stopped playing. They didn't riot. They didn't burn cities down. They didn't even argue anymore. They just left. They left the dating apps where they were called creeps for saying hello. They left the bars where approaching a woman could end with a public shaming video. They left the workplaces that treated them like disposable utilities. They left the universities that charged them $250,000 to be told they're the root of all evil. They left the entire script. And when they left, they didn't disappear into the wilderness with shotguns and canned beans like the media wants you to imagine. Most of them just went home. They downsized their lives, cut their expenses to the bone, figured out how to live on less, and rediscovered something the system never wanted them to find: peace. Peace. They play video games now. They lift weights in garages. They read books they actually enjoy. They spend time with the small circle of friends who never bought into the madness. They stack cryptocurrency in cold storage. They buy small amounts of silver every month. They grow vegetables in 5-gallon buckets on balconies. They learn skills on YouTube that actually matter: how to fix engines, how to grow food, how to disappear financially when everything collapses. And the craziest part, they're happier than they've ever been. Society didn't see it coming because society never actually valued men in the first place. We were always just supposed to be tools, workhorses, wallets with legs. And when the tools decided they were tired of being used, the people holding the reins panicked. That's why you're seeing the flood of articles now. The Atlantic, the New York Times, BBC, all suddenly concerned about male loneliness. Podcasts full of women asking, where did all the good men go? TikToks from 28-year-olds with blue hair wondering why nobody approaches them at the grocery store anymore. Entire government task forces in multiple countries trying to figure out how to re-engage young men with society. They finally notice the seats are empty. The bars are half full on Friday nights, and the other half is women wondering why no one is buying them drinks. College campuses have 60 to 40 female to male ratios now and dropping. Marriage rates have collapsed to historic lows. Birth rates in the West are in free fall. Entire industries that depended on male labor are facing shortages they can't explain without admitting the truth. Men aren't broken, they're awake. And once a man wakes up to the game, he doesn't go back to sleep. And then I want you to really picture this next part because it's already happening in slow motion. Walk into any major city nightclub right now on a Saturday night. You'll see groups of women dressed to the nines, phones out, filming everything, waiting for attention that never comes. The dance floor is mostly empty. The bar has a handful of guys talking to each other or just sipping their one drink slowly because they're only there because a friend dragged them out. The energy is gone. The old dynamic where men would line up to buy drinks and compete for validation has evaporated. Now go to a gym at 6 a.m. It's packed with men. Quiet men with headphones in, grinding, getting stronger, not posting about it, not peacocking, just building themselves in silence. Go look at the cryptocurrency charts. Billions of dollars flowing in from new wallets every single month, and the demographics skew heavily. Male, heavily under 40. Men who decided that putting their money in a system that hates them is insane, so they moved it somewhere the rules can't be changed because someone has a feelings-based grievance. Look at the gaming industry. Record profits. Young men aren't out chasing women who despise them. They're mastering virtual worlds where at least the rules are fair and their effort is rewarded. Look at the rise of minimalism channels, off-grid living, van life, digital nomadism, overwhelmingly male. Men who realized that the carrot dangled in front of them was never real. So they stopped chasing it and built lives that actually belong to them. This is what walking away looks like in practice. And the best part, it's self-reinforcing. The more men walk away, the less incentive there is for the next guy to stay plugged in. Why fight for crumbs when you can just leave the table entirely? Women are starting to feel it in real time. The ones who spent years saying they don't need a man are now making tearful videos about how they can't find one who meets their standards. The same women who said height, income, and status don't matter are now openly filtering dating apps for men over 6 feet tall who make six figures. The irony is thicker than a protein shake. But here's what they still don't get. The men who could meet those standards are the ones who figured out the game first. And those men aren't coming back. They're not sitting around waiting to be chosen. They're in Thailand teaching Muay Thai. They're in Eastern Europe dating feminine women who treat them like human beings. They're in their apartments with 6 monitors, day trading meme coins, and eating steak they cook themselves. They're gone. And the men who stay behind aren't the high value ones the culture keeps pretending are hiding. The remaining pool is increasingly the guys who never woke up, the ones who still think simping is a personality, the ones who will accept whatever crumbs are offered because they don't know they have options. That's the real cruelty of it. The women who spent years rejecting good men for not being perfect enough are now competing for the bottom of the barrel, while the top tier simply remove themselves from the equation entirely. But this isn't about revenge. That's what the blue pill crowd still doesn't understand. Men walking away isn't punishment, it's protection. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. It's self preservation. It's the first time in history that regular men have access to the ultimate power, the power to say no and mean it. Every empire in history collapsed when the men who built and maintained it decided it wasn't worth saving. Rome didn't fall because of barbarians at the gates. It fell because Roman men stopped caring about being Roman. They stopped joining the legions. They stopped paying taxes, as Caesar says. They stopped showing up. And when the men stop showing up, everything else is just a matter of time. We are watching that process unfold again right now in real time. And the most fascinating part, the system still thinks it can shame men back into the harness. They think if they call men losers enough times, if they make enough movies where the hero is a girl boss who doesn't need help, if they pass enough laws making it even more dangerous to be male, that men will eventually crawl back begging for scraps. They don't understand that the spell is broken. Once a man experiences true peace, no drama, no false accusations, no financial exploitation, no being told his natural desires are predatory, no walking on eggshells, he doesn't go back. There's no amount of shaming, no amount of man up lectures, no amount of crying TikToks that will ever make him trade his peace for chaos again. That's the red pill that can't be unswallowed. The genie is out of the bottle. The matrix has glitched, and millions of us have seen the code, and we're not plugging back in. Now, let's talk about what happens next, because this is where the story gets dark for everyone who thought men were bluffing. Society has always operated on an unspoken contract. Men protect, men provide, men sacrifice, and in exchange, they get respect, family, legacy, and some basic dignity. That contract was shredded, burned, and the ashes were spit on while men were told to keep performing anyway. Most men, being the dutiful creatures we are, kept going for a long time. We told ourselves it would get better. We told ourselves if we just worked harder, if we just became better versions of ourselves, the respect would come back. We swallowed the pill that said our grandfathers had it easier because they were born at the right time, not because the rules were fair. But then the internet happened. Information democratized. Men started talking to each other in corners of the web the mainstream never bothered to monitor. Quiet forums, private discords, YouTube channels with weird names, Telegram groups. And in those spaces, something beautiful and terrifying was born. Collective realization. One man would say, I make 85,000 a year, I'm in shape, I have no debt, and women act like I'm invisible. Another would answer, same, bro. I stopped trying 6 months ago, and my life has never been calmer. A third would drop a link to a cold wallet tutorial and say, put your money where they can't inflate it away, or garnish it when someone feels like it. A fourth would post a picture of his balcony garden and say, I grow 40% of my own food now. Rent is my only bill. These weren't gurus selling courses. These were regular guys sharing maps out of the burning building, and the maps worked. Every single one of them. That's when the dam broke. Because once a man sees another man living proof that peace is possible, that financial independence is possible, that happiness without constant female validation is possible, he can't unsee it. It's like watching someone walk out of prison and realizing the door was never actually locked. You just had to stop believing the guards. So millions walked. And now we're entering the phase nobody wants to talk about openly, the consequence phase that you're already seeing the early tremors. Home Depot on a Saturday morning used to be a sea of men buying lumber, tools, concrete, fixing things, building things. Now, half the guys in there are wearing headphones, grabbing one specific item and leaving. They're not renovating houses for families anymore. They're reinforcing their own small compounds. Grocery stores report that single men's shopping patterns have completely shifted. Bulk rice, canned meat, frozen vegetables, protein powder. No more cartloads of junk food and wine for date nights. They're stocking up like quiet preppers who don't feel the need to announce it. Car dealerships and certain demographics are dead. Young men aren't buying new trucks to impress anyone. They're keeping the 15-year-old Civic running forever because the only place they drive is to the gym and the hiking trail. The marriage industry, wedding venues, photographers, planners, is quietly panicking behind the scenes. Deposits are down 40 to 60% in many markets. They won't say it publicly, but they know why. Even the military is struggling to hit recruiting numbers in Western countries. They keep lowering standards, offering bigger bonuses, running ads that look like corporate diversity seminars, and still the young men aren't biting. Why would they? Why sign up to risk your life for a society that calls you toxic for existing? Every institution that relied on male sacrifice is feeling the cold. And the colder it gets, the more desperate the messaging becomes. You've seen the articles, the crisis of men not wanting to work. They never frame it as the crisis of work not being worth men's time anymore. They interview some think tank expert who says young men are lazy and addicted to video games. They never mention that the same young men are waking up at 5 a.m. to lift, managing six-figure crypto portfolios, and living on $1,200 a month like ascetics. They want you to think these men are lost. They're not lost. They're exactly where they want to be. The truth is, most of these men aren't even angry anymore. That's what scares the system the most. Anger can be negotiated with, anger can be shamed, anger can be medicated or legislated away. Peace cannot. A man at peace is the most dangerous creature on earth because there's nothing left to take from him that he hasn't already decided isn't worth keeping. And he doesn't need your approval. He doesn't need your validation. He doesn't need your dating market. He doesn't need your corporate ladder. He doesn't need your consumer economy. He has his health, his skills, his brothers, his crypto, his garden, his books, his purpose, and his peace. And he will die before he gives that up again. That's the part women are starting to feel in their bones, but can't articulate yet. They spent years being told they were strong, independent, that they didn't need a man, that traditional roles were oppression. And a lot of them believed it. They built their identity around it. They got the degrees, the careers, the apartments, the cats, the wine nights with the girls. And now, in their late 20s and early 30s, they're looking around and realizing the party is over and nobody told them where the exit is. The men who would have been their husbands 10 years ago are gone. Not dead, gone. Living in other countries, living off grid, living so far under the radar that they might as well be on another planet. The men who remain are either the ones who never woke up or the ones who learned to play the new game. Pump and dump, situationships, never commit, keep three plates spinning, never let one woman have real power over you. That's the dating market now for the average Western woman. And it's brutal. But again, this isn't revenge. Men didn't create these rules. Women demanded them, society enforced them, and men simply adapted and then left the field entirely when adaptation stopped being worth it. I want you to think about something deeper here. For thousands of years, civilizations rose and fell on the willingness of men to build them and defend them. Every great empire, every golden age was built on the backs of men who believed that their sacrifice would be rewarded with family, honor, legacy, and a place in the story. When that belief dies, the civilization dies. It's not a maybe, it's historical law. Sparta collapsed when Spartan men stopped wanting Spartan wives. Rome collapsed when Roman men stopped wanting to be Roman citizens. Weimar Germany, the Soviet Union, every society that humiliated and exploited its men eventually watched those men check out, and the whole thing came down like a house of cards. We are not the first generation to live through this. We're just the first generation to watch it happen in high definition, in real time, with receipts. And here's where it gets really heavy. as the economy continues to implode, as inflation keeps eating savings, as rents keep climbing, as groceries become luxury items, as power grids become less reliable, as crime continues to rise in cities. Guess who is prepared? The men who walked away, the ones who have 6 months of food, the ones who paid off their small mortgages years ago, the ones who moved to cheaper states or cheaper countries, the ones who learned to fix their own vehicles and generate their own power, the ones whose net worth is in assets the government can't seize with a button press. They're not coming to save the day. When the trucks stop rolling and the grocery store shelves are empty, when the EBT cards stop working and the cities descend into chaos, when women are standing in lines for basic necessities, realizing that strong and independent doesn't fill a pantry, the men who spent years being called deadbeats for playing video games are going to be just fine. They'll be at home, eating rice and beef from their freezer, lifting weights in the garage, playing the new Call of Duty that downloaded before the internet went dark, and sleeping like babies because they already went through the apocalypse. Their personal apocalypse was realizing the world lied to them about everything, and they survived it. They came out the other side leaner, harder, calmer, richer in every way that matters. The coming collapse isn't going to break them, it's going to be Tuesday. And the women who spent the last decade celebrating the decline of men are about to learn what life looks like when the buffer between them and reality disappears. No more men white knighting on social media. No more men rushing into burning buildings. No more men working 3 jobs to keep the lights on for people who hate them. No more men volunteering to fix society's problems. Just reality. Raw, unfiltered, and merciless. Nature doesn't negotiate. Physics doesn't care about your feelings. Hunger doesn't respect your pronouns. Men were the shock absorbers between women and the brutality of the world for centuries. We took the hits so they didn't have to. And now that we've stepped aside, the hits are going to land exactly where they always would have without us. That's not hatred, that's physics. You remove the dam, the water flows. You remove the shield, the arrows hit. This is cause and effect on a civilizational scale. And the craziest part is that even now, even watching the early stages unfold, most people still think it's a phase. They think men will get bored. They think loneliness will force men back. They think shame will work one more time. They don't understand that loneliness for a man who has peace is a small price to pay compared to chaos with company. A man can be lonely and still sleep 8 hours a night. A man can be lonely and still eat steak 3 times a week. A man can be lonely and still wake up without dread. But a man in a toxic relationship, a man bleeding money in family court, a man walking on eggshells every day, that man doesn't know peace at all. So when they ask, "Aren't you lonely?" the real answer is, not nearly as lonely as I was when I was surrounded by people who despised me. That's the truth bomb. They can't diffuse. The script has flipped, and the new reality is settling in like concrete. Men are free. For the first time in history, average men have options our grandfathers couldn't dream of: passports, remote work, cryptocurrency, global dating markets, information symmetry. The cage door is wide open, and millions walked out and never looked back. And nothing, no law, no shaming campaign, no crying influencer, no government program is powerful enough to drag them back in. The age of male sacrifice without reciprocity is over. The age of men as utility is over. The age of begging for basic respect is over. We're in the age of men walking away. And all roads lead here. All roads lead to peace. All roads lead to MWA. The silence is deafening now, and it's only going to get louder. Every week, another article drops with a variation of the same panicked headline. Young men are opting out of everything. The disappearing male workforce. Why men refuse to date anymore. They all read like emergency dispatches from a war nobody declared out loud. The tone has shifted from mockery to bargaining to outright fear. They went from "who needs men anyway" to "okay, maybe we went too far. Please come back" in less than 5 years. 5 years. That's how fast the pendulum swung once men realized they could swing it themselves just by refusing to play. And the bargaining phase is hilarious if it wasn't so tragic. They're offering crumbs now. "We'll let you have your man caves. We'll stop calling you toxic if you just propose. We'll even let you open the door for us again. Just please pay the bills like you used to." It's the abuser playbook on a civilizational level. Hit you for years, then cry when you finally leave the house. But the men who matter aren't listening. They're too busy executing the most elegant exit strategy in human history. Let me paint you a picture of a day in the life of the average walked away man in 2025. This isn't fantasy. This is the composite of hundreds of thousands of real men I've talked to, watched, and studied. And he wakes up at 8:30 a.m. because he doesn't have to punch a clock. No alarm, no commute, no soul crushing morning meeting where some mid level manager with a gender studies degree lectures him about privilege. He makes coffee in a French press he bought once and will own for 20 years. He checks the charts for 10 minutes, sees his Bitcoin and Ethereum bags are up another 0.5%, smiles, closes the laptop. He trays in his garage gym for an hour while listening to a podcast about stoicism or soil regeneration or whatever scratches his brain the right way. He showers, eats 4 eggs and half an avocado, then spends the afternoon doing whatever actually matters to him. Some days that's day trading altcoins. Some days it's building furniture he'll sell on a local marketplace for cash. Some days it's riding a motorcycle into the mountains with two buddies who also walked away years ago. Some days it's absolutely nothing but reading a book on the porch while the sun moves across the sky. His rent or mortgage is under $900 a month because he left the cities when everyone was still trying to live their best life in a 400 square foot shoebox for 3 grand. His truck is 15 years old and paid off. His phone is a $300 Android that does everything he needs it to do. His wardrobe is 10 t shirts, 3 pairs of jeans, 2 hoodies, 1 good jacket, and a pair of boots that will outlive him if he takes care of them. And he has no debt, zero, not even a credit card balance. But he has 12 months of living expenses in stable coins on a hardware wallet nobody knows exists. He has another 6 months in physical silver buried in a spot only he and God know about. He has 2 deep freezers full of meat he bought on sale and a shelf of rice, oats, and canned goods that cost him less than one night out in 2015 would have. He talks to his parents once a week. He sees his real friends once or twice a month in person. No drama, no politics, just steak and laughs. He hasn't been on a dating app in 4 years and doesn't miss the anxiety one bit. If he wants female companionship, he books a flight to Colombia or Poland or Thailand for 2 weeks, spends less than he used to on one fancy date in Manhattan, and comes home refreshed instead of drained. He is untouchable. And there are millions of him now, quietly spreading, quietly stacking, quietly winning. That's the part the mainstream articles never show you because it destroys their narrative. They want you to picture a basement dwelling incel with a neckbeard and a grudge. The reality is a 29-year-old former engineer who looks like he could deadlift a Buick, speaks 2 languages, manages a 6-figure crypto portfolio, and hasn't raised his voice in anger in 3 years because nothing in his life is worth getting angry about anymore. The neckbeard incel still exists, sure, but he's not the one walking away. He's still plugged in, still hoping, still consuming the slop, still waiting for society to throw him a bone. The men who walked away don't wait for anything anymore. They build. And the gap between those two groups keeps growing. The ones who walked away early are now financially independent in their early 30s. The ones still clinging to the old script are drowning in student debt, renting forever, and watching their testosterone levels plummet from stress and microplastics and seed oils and constant blue light dopamine hits. It's almost merciful that most people can't see how wide that gap has already become. Let's talk about the workplace for a minute because that's where the collapse is most visible to anyone paying attention. In 2019, the labor participation rate for men aged 25 to 54 in the United States was already at historic lows. By 2025, it has quietly kept sliding. The government keeps cooking the numbers by saying unemployment is low. Hey guys, listen up. If you're tired of going through life alone and you want real brotherhood with men who actually think and grind like you, then check out Angry Guys Clubhouse. It's a community built around brotherhood, passive income, business insights, and even expat living. Plus, you get access to our private men's chat where real conversations happen every day. And when you sign up, you'll get the passive income blueprint and the expat blueprint free just for joining. Don't wait. The link is in the description. Go check it out now. But they conveniently ignore the millions who aren't even looking anymore. They're not unemployed, they're unplugged. Companies are desperate. Trades are begging for workers. Tech companies that spent years preaching diversity are now quietly posting job ads that say military veterans encouraged to apply because they know who still shows up on time and doesn't cry in the bathroom when someone uses the wrong pronoun. Warehouse jobs, construction, trucking, plumbing, electrical, every blue collar field is short hundreds of thousands of men, and wages are finally starting to reflect it. A kid with a CDL and a clean record can make six figures driving a truck now, and half the guys who could do it are sitting at home saying, "Nah, I'm good." Because here's the secret they don't want you to know. Most of these men aren't rich yet, but they're free. And freedom tastes better than any paycheck ever could. A man making $200,000 a year with a wife who openly despises him, two kids he barely sees, and a mortgage that keeps him chained to a job he hates is a prisoner with a higher thread count on his shackles. A man making $38,000 a year living in a paid off trailer in the mountains, lifting every day, eating ribeyes he grilled himself, and answering to no one is a king. Guess which one sleeps better? Guess which one women are suddenly noticing again when they swipe on dating apps in those rural areas? Guess which one doesn't care that they noticed? That's the delicious irony that keeps me awake smiling some nights. The same women who said, "I don't date broke guys," in 2018 are now sliding into DMs of mechanics and carpenters who clear $120,000 working 9 months a year and spend the other three hunting and fishing. But those guys saw the game too. They're not rushing to wife up the 34-year-old marketing manager with the wine habit and the $80,000 in student loans. They're enjoying the attention, maybe taking a few for a ride, but the ring finger stays empty. The power dynamic has inverted so completely that most people still can't process it. Women spent a decade being the selectors, the gatekeepers of intimacy, holding all the cards because biology and culture both said men would always chase. Then biology hit the wall at 32. Culture flipped its script, and the men stopped chasing entirely. The cards are on the floor now, and nobody's picking them up. That's when you start seeing the panic manifest in the wildest ways. You've got 38-year-old CEOs making TikToks about how they're open to traditional gender roles now. You've got dating coaches telling women to lower their standards while charging them $10,000 for the privilege of hearing it. You've got entire subreddits of women trying to figure out why the tradesmen they used to look down on won't commit to them. Meanwhile, the tradesman is at the lake with his dog and his cooler, laughing at the group chat where his boys are sending screenshots of the latest desperate DMs. He's not bitter, he's not gloating, he's just living. And that's the final stage most men reach once they fully walked away. Indifference, not hatred, not anger, not even Schadenfreude anymore. Just the calm, unshakable indifference of a man who finally realized none of it was ever worth the price they were asking. When you reach that stage, the game is over. You've won by refusing to play. You can't be hurt by a system you no longer participate in. And you can't be shamed by people whose opinions you no longer value. You can't be controlled by incentives that no longer tempt you. That's true freedom. And millions of men have tasted it now. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle. There's no law they can pass, no propaganda campaign they can run, no amount of crying on social media that will ever make these men trade freedom for chains again. The old world is dying, and it's dying because the men who used to hold it up took one look at the deal being offered and said, no thanks. And they meant it. They really, truly, deeply meant it. So when you hear the next talking head on television wringing their hands about the crisis of masculinity, remember what you're actually watching: the death throes of a system that forgot men were human beings and not utilities. When you see another viral video of a woman asking, where have all the good men gone? Remember that the good men didn't go anywhere. They just stopped announcing their presence to people who spent years telling them they weren't wanted. When you see another politician promising to fix young men, remember that the only thing broken is the contract they shredded first. Men didn't break society. Society broke its promise to men. And men, being the reasonable, adaptable, resilient creatures we are, simply adapted by walking away. That's the whole story. That's the entire movement in one sentence. We adapted. And now the world gets to live with the consequences of its own choices. The next 10 years are going to be the most fascinating case study in human history. We're watching a civilization eat itself because it forgot that the hand that builds is the same hand that can let the whole thing fall. And the men who could stop it are sipping coffee on porches, lifting in garages, stacking sats, and sleeping better than they ever have in their lives. History will record this era very simply. They pushed too far. We left. Everything else is just details. So if you're still on the fence, if you're still grinding away at a life that feels like slow death, ask yourself one question: how much more of your life are you willing to trade for a game that was never designed to let you win? The exit is right there. The door has been open for years. Millions of us are already on the other side, breathing free air, living lives we actually own. All you have to do is walk, take the step. Join us. There's peace here, there's strength here, there's brotherhood here. And once you cross that threshold, you'll wonder why you ever waited so long. The water's warm, the weight is gone, the chains are off, and we're never ever going back. The most surreal part of all of this is how fast the narrative is crumbling now that the consequences are no longer theoretical. They're in people's faces every single day. You can't scroll TikTok for 10 minutes without stumbling across another 30-something woman doing that wide-eyed, soft voice confession. I thought I had all the time in the world. I focused on my career. I thought the right guy would just show up when I was ready, and now I'm staring at 35, and the dating pool feels like a puddle. The comments are a war zone. Half the men are laughing, the other half are quietly typing, "This is what we tried to warn you about in 2015." And the women watching are either rage crying or privately panicking because they're 26 and the timeline just got a lot shorter. Those videos aren't outliers anymore. They're the new normal. Entire accounts have blown up doing nothing but stitching those confessions with calm, cold breakdowns of the math. Fertility windows, hypergamy collapse, male opt out rates, passport bro statistics, millions of views, millions of shares. The algorithm knows what keeps eyes glued. And the craziest part, the men making those breakdown videos aren't screaming, they're not gloating. They're just reading the numbers in the same tone you'd use to read the weather report. Here's what the data says. Here's what happens next. Make your choices accordingly. That calm is what terrifies people more than any rage ever could. Because rage can be dismissed as bitterness. Calm cannot. Calm is the sound of a man who has already made peace with the outcome. Calm is the sound of a man who no longer has a dog in the fight. Calm is the sound of millions of men who have zero incentive to sugarcoat reality anymore. And that calm is spreading like wildfire. I want you to really let this next part sink in. We are now at the point where young men in high school are watching all of this unfold in real time and making decisions accordingly. Gen Z boys are growing up with front row seats to the greatest awakening in history. They see their fathers broken by divorce. They see their older brothers mocked and discarded. They see the TikToks, the Reddit threads, the YouTube essays, the crypto charts, the passport bro travel vlogs. And they are choosing at 16, 17, 18 years old to never even step onto the plantation in the first place. They're getting jacked in high school gyms. They're learning trades or coding or content creation instead of racking up six-figure liberal arts debt. They're opening Roth IRAs at 18 and buying Bitcoin with their first paychecks. They're watching Andrew Tate at 14, then discovering Better Bachelor at 16, then Rich Cooper at 18, then quietly deleting their Instagram and going ghost. They are the first generation of men who will enter adulthood already immune to the old tricks, and society has no idea what to do with them. Universities are already feeling it. Male enrollment is in free fall. The gender gap on campuses is now 60 to 40 in many places and heading towards 70 to 30 in the next decade. Entire humanities departments are becoming female only echo chambers funded by loans that will never be repaid because the men who used to subsidize the system with their tuition dollars simply said, no, thanks. The propaganda machine is scrambling. They're rolling out new campaigns. Real men go to college, but I see real men get married. Real men step up. But it's landing like a wet fart because every 17-year-old with a smartphone can pull up a clip of a family court judge destroying a man's life for the crime of earning more money than his ex-wife. The spell isn't just broken, it's been deleted from the source code. These kids are growing up with a level of clarity our grandfathers would have called wisdom beyond their years. They're not rebelling with drugs or crime. They're rebelling by refusing to participate in their own exploitation. That's the most mature rebellion imaginable. And the ripple effects are going to be biblical. 20 years from now, when today's 16-year-old boys are 36, they're going to be a generation of men who own their homes outright, have zero debt, speak multiple languages, have passports full of stamps, bodies like Greek statues, and net worths in the millions, many of them in assets that can't be seized or inflated away. They will have never married, never paid alimony, never had their children used as financial weapons against them. And the women who will be 36 at the same time, the ones who spent their 20s living their truth, chasing careers that plateaued at middle management, traveling with the girls, collecting handbags and wine hangovers. They're going to be looking at a society with no safety net, no husbands, no fathers for their children, if they manage to have any, and a government that is bankrupt from trying to replace men with welfare programs. That's not hyperbole. That's math. The fertility rate in the West is already below 1.6 in most countries. In 10 years, it will be under 1.3. In 20 years, we're looking at a demographic implosion that makes Japan look like a baby boom. Entire school districts are already closing because there aren't enough children. Pension systems are going to collapse under the weight of too many retirees and not enough workers. Healthcare systems will buckle. Real estate in cities will crash when there's nobody left to rent the overpriced apartments. And through all of it, the men who walked away will be watching from the sidelines, healthy, wealthy, child-free by choice, and completely unconcerned because they didn't burn the bridge. The bridge was demolished from the other side first. They just chose not to jump into the canyon when they saw the explosion. People keep asking, who's going to pay for all the social programs? Who's going to keep society running? The answer is simple. The same people who were told for decades that they weren't needed. And that answer is no longer a threat. It's just a fact. It's like watching a slow motion train wreck where half the passengers realized years ago that the train was heading off a cliff, quietly got off at the last station, and are now standing on solid ground, watching the rest scream as gravity takes over. There's no hatred in their eyes, just sadness for what could have been if different choices had been made. But sadness doesn't build bridges. Sadness doesn't reverse time. Sadness doesn't make men volunteer to be sacrificial lambs again. The moment has passed. The offer expired. The contract was terminated not by men, but by a society that forgot men are human beings with limits. And now the bill is coming due. I want you to think about your own life for a second. Really think. How much of your time, your energy, your money, your life force have you spent chasing things that were never going to love you back? A job that would replace you tomorrow? A woman who kept you as an option while she looked for better? A society that called you privileged while stripping you of every natural right your grandfather took for granted? How much more are you willing to give? Because here's the secret nobody wants to say out loud: walking away isn't the end, it's the beginning. It's the beginning of a life that actually belongs to you. It's the beginning of peace you didn't know was possible. It's the beginning of strength you didn't know you had. It's the beginning of brotherhood with men who actually have your back. Every man who takes that first step reports the same thing. The first month is weird. You feel guilty. You feel like you're supposed to be doing something. You feel the old programming screaming that you're a loser for not grinding 60 hours a week for people who hate you. Then month 2 hits. The noise starts to fade. You sleep through the night for the first time in years. Your bank account stops bleeding. Your body starts responding to training again because the stress hormones finally drop. By month 6, you barely recognize the old version of yourself. By year 2, you look back and laugh at how long you waited. By year 5, you're a completely different man. And that's not theory. That's the universal testimony of every single man who has fully walked away and never looked back. The path is well trodden now. The maps are free. The community is massive and growing. The tools are better than they've ever been. All that's left is the decision. And that decision is yours alone. No one can make it for you. No one can shame you out of it. Once you've seen the truth, no one can lure you back once you've tasted freedom. So if you're watching this and something deep in your chest is stirring, listen to it. That's your soul telling you it's time. That's your ancestors whispering that you weren't born to be a slave. That's the future version of you begging you not to waste another day. Take the step. Start small if you have to. Delete the dating apps. Cancel the subscriptions you don't need. Open the crypto account. Buy the first silver coin. Lift the first weight. Read the first book that actually matters. Just start. The men on the other side are waiting. We saved you a seat. We kept the fire going. We left the door open. All you have to do is walk through it. And once you do, you'll realize the cage was never locked. It never even had a back wall. You were always free to leave. You just had to believe you were worth more than what they were offering. And brother, you are. You always were. The only question left is how much more of your one precious life are you going to spend pretending otherwise? The clock is ticking and the world is changing and the old lies are dying. And a new era of men, quiet, strong, calm, unbreakable, is rising. Be part of it or don't. But whatever you choose, choose consciously because the age of accidental slavery is over. The age of conscious freedom has begun. And all roads still lead to one place. MWA. Men walking away. See you on the other side. Now go live like a man who finally owns his life. Cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.